The two world leaders walked hand in hand, waving at a crowd of over 50,000 at the NRG Stadium in Houston, Texas, the biggest for a foreign leader in the United States. Modi said he is learning the art of the deal, title of a book published in 1987 by Donald Trump, calling him a tough negotiator and a leader who has revamped the American economy. Trump called Modi a loyal friend who is doing exceptional work for India with his reforms agenda. The two leaders also united on a common agenda of tackling terror, securing borders, and boosting economic and defense ties. The editorials in America have said it all. Highlighting Prime Minister Narendra Modi's global clout, the New York Times headline said Trump played second fiddle at the Howdy Modi event. BBC called it a historic rally, while the Washington Post said Trump played an unusual role of a warm-up act at the rally. This event was politically significant for Donald Trump. Texas is a red state traditionally backing the Republican Party. But Democratic gains with the minority community have pushed Donald Trump to woo the sizable Indian American community. Remember, in 2016, 77% of Indian Americans voted for Hillary Clinton. The latest polls in the US suggest Trump's approval rating is dwindling ahead of the 2020 presidential elections. As Modi creates diplomatic history in the United States, back here in India, the opposition is fuming over the Trump-Modi connect. Opposition parties have accused the Prime Minister of committing a diplomatic blunder, alleging that he took part in a foreign election campaign. But is this clear envy after the Prime Minister secured a major endorsement from the United States President? This unprecedented bonhomie, political endorsement and commitment to expand defense, trade and security ties, was this just reciprocity or a calculated diplomatic move? Is the new Modi doctrine that is high on optics elevating India's position on the global stage? Before I bring in my guests, let me go straight to Mr. Ram Madhav. In fact, earlier today, I spoke to senior BJP leader Ram Madhav, and I began by asking him, you are among those who said that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is not a leader, but a phenomenon. The Prime Minister's speech is being praised for further shaming and isolating Pakistan. Is it correct to assume that Modi-Trump chemistry is leading to a change in South Asia's geopolitics, Mr. Ram Madhav?
It is a very significant relationship, undoubtedly. It is a strong relationship between two very important leaders of two very big powers in the world. But also we must understand that this is a relationship in which we as Indians have invested very heavily in last so many decades. US-India relationship is a mutually beneficial relationship for both the countries. We have been natural allies because of various reasons, including our strong democratic traditions and sharing of people and all those things. But at this juncture, India and US coming together in such a significant way is certainly going to be a major turning point in the geopolitics of the world.
But there is a view here in India, and that has come from the Congress camp. Anand Sharma has criticized the Prime Minister, saying he has ended India's bipartisan policy as far as American politics is concerned, domestic politics is concerned, by openly campaigning for Donald Trump. What would you tell your political opponent today?
This is all, very laughable kind of criticism. There is no real depth or weight in that criticism at all. All that Prime Minister Modi did was to reciprocate what President Trump said just before 2014 election. It was President Trump who said at that time that "Agli baar Modi Sarkar." So in a lighter vein, Prime Minister Modi also reminded him, saying that we now say "Agli baar Trump Sarkar." In any case, it's in no way it should be seen as any interference in the democratic process of the United States of America. The people of America will decide about their leadership. We respect their democratic traditions. We don't have to learn lessons in democracy, bipartisanship from Congress party.
Are we betting too much on Donald Trump?
We are betting on India's relationship with the USA, just as we did it with many other countries in the world. We have, under Prime Minister Modi, established a new practice of bilateralism, strong bilateralism, without any hyphenation. In that sense, our whole effort, Prime Minister Modi's whole effort has been to strengthen this bilateral relationship in such a manner that it would not affect our relationships with any other country in the world.
One of the things that came out is what the Prime Minister said about history, chemistry, synergy. The US President spoke of America as India's best friend. The kind of warmth the two leaders exuded was clearly extraordinary. Is the big change from the past the personal connect that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has established with world leaders?
Of course, that has been the USP of Prime Minister Modi. He, in his last 5 years, has been able to establish very good personal rapport with a number of important leaders of different countries. Those who know diplomacy, international relations well, they know the importance of mutual understanding and personal rapport between the leaders in deciding about the outcome of a given relationship. In that sense, Prime Minister Modi, he invests heavily on building personal rapport with important leaders of different countries. Same thing we have seen in the case of his relationship with President Trump. But I must also remind to you that I was also witness to Prime Minister Modi's relationship with President Obama.
That's right.
You must recall that Prime Minister Modi had actually addressed the American Parliament, American Congress when President Obama was there as the President of America. They also enjoyed very good relationship. So as far as this whole big talk about bipartisanship is concerned, we value the principle behind the bipartisan relationship. There is no doubt about it.
You know, trade is still a contentious issue between the United States and India, Mr. Ram Madhav. How much have we bridged the divide on that front?
This particular event yesterday has helped India overcome one or two major contemporary challenges. One of them was to elicit solid support, secure solid support from the leadership of the United States of America on the question of terrorism, on the question of India's right to protect itself, secure its borders. On that, you have seen President Trump also saying that India has every right to strengthen or protect its borders, strengthen its border security, which is a significant statement to come out of President Trump. The second thing is, between our two countries, there was a little teething problem of trade. There were a few minor issues. It was not a major problem, it was a minor problem, but it was there. Now, with this new kind of relationship, new kind of friendship that we have seen yesterday, I'm sure even on the trade front, the sailing hereafter will be very smooth.
You know, Donald Trump is seen as a mercurial leader who has often taken to social media and made comments which are seen as unpleasant against his counterparts in other countries. So is it a slippery terrain if you endorse him the manner in which the Prime Minister did yesterday?
You see, we always try to have good and strong bilateral relations with countries that our Prime Minister visits. We do hope that the spirit, which Prime Minister has called as the Chicago spirit, Texas spirit, will continue in our relationship. We will further build on this new found bonhomie, newfound friendship between the two leaders. We will further build on that. In any case, it is a relationship between two important sovereign democracies. Although the individual, leadership factor is important, the larger issue is the relationship between two important countries, and I am sure the American system understands the value, the significance of this relationship.
Mr. Madhav, tell me, is there a historic parallel to an event such as what we saw at the NRG Stadium yesterday? The presence of two heads of states as chief guests gracing an occasion at an event of expatriates of one country.
At least in America's case, in the immediate history, I do not recall any such incident or event where the President of America would have gone out to a public reception hosted in honor of a visiting leader of another country. I do not recall any such event. I only recall that when Modi ji visited New York in 2014, when we hosted that Madison Square Garden event, we had close to 40 congressmen, both from the House and from the Senate, attending that event. That time it was built to be one of the very unique type of event, one of the kind events in US history where 40 congressmen had converged in an event where a visiting dignitary was being felicitated and honored. But even that record has been now broken with this Houston event where President himself, President of the United States, Mr. Donald Trump himself was present. I do not recall any such event, at least in the immediate past history in US.
My last question to you, sir. President Trump's speech indicated that he is betting big on America winning key defense deals with India in the days ahead. How pragmatic is his assessment?
You see, in our bilateral relationship, India-US bilateral relationship, defense component is a very important component, you must remember. We have strong defense ties with several countries. We have had traditionally strong defense ties with countries like Russia. We have developed our defense ties with countries like Israel. We have them with a couple of countries in Europe. But our defense ties with the US have progressively been improving, have progressively been getting stronger and stronger over the years. And today, we all know that America has the latest technologies. It produces the latest defense equipment, surveillance equipment and all that. So naturally, this relationship in terms of our, the defense component of our relationship is a significant one, and not just President Trump, even India attaches great value to this component of our relationship.
All right, Ram Madhav, always a pleasure to have you on my shows. Thank you so much for your time here on Epicenter. Let me bring in all my guests now and go straight to Diplomat Sajanhar. Diplomat, thank you so much. With this kind of unmistakable endorsement of Trump's candidacy, has the Prime Minister walked into a risky territory of American politics by throwing caution to the wind, or is it preempting the return of Trump and hence a brave move?
No, I don't think he's, thrown caution to the wind, as you put it, and he's, walked into this particular territory. I would be extremely hesitant to see the Prime Minister's words as, so to say, within quotes, a ringing endorsement of Mr. Trump. Because, let's recall what the Prime Minister was saying when he was welcoming and when he was introducing President Trump was, and he did mention that when candidate Trump was canvassing, then he had used words out of, the campaign lexicon of Prime Minister Modi himself before the 2014 election. So in 2016, he referred to that is what had been used. He was not, in my view, endorsing Mr. Trump as a candidate for 2020. I don't think the campaigning in the United States for the presidential elections has even started so far, for Prime Minister Modi to have gone and, given an endorsement and canvassed on his behalf. So I think this criticism is somewhat or quite uncalled for, and I don't think that was intended. You would recall, Marya, that he also referred to the celebrations of Diwali in the White House by President Trump. So, this is all he's been speaking about, what has been happening in the past. So I think the comments should be taken in the manner and in the spirit in which they were said. And of course, you know, when you are introducing a person in the United States, of course, you extol the virtues and you are very effusive in your compliments, and that is what the Prime Minister did. This was reciprocated by President Trump also.
Okay, Sushant Sareen, is this just reciprocity, or would you say a smart calculation because on the opposition side, there is no credible diplomatic opposition, in the sense democratic opposition standing up against Donald Trump, and hence it looks like an election, although tricky, like Indian elections, but the conclusion could be drawn 1 year in advance, Sushant Sareen? So a smart preemptive strike by Prime Minister?
No, look, it was smart diplomacy, but I wouldn't go to the extent you are going that, you know, he was actually endorsing Donald Trump. Look, let's face it, he laid it out really thick. But did he not lay it out really thick when Obama was president? So that's the kind of language you use. You know, you use that flowery language. You apple polish the other guy. They do the same thing to you. And then you find ways out to do business with each other. And if that's the name of the game, then that's the name. That's the game which Mr. Modi has been playing. So the carping sounds
just
by
hold
people
on
in the
to your
Indian
thoughts.
opposition that, you know,
Donald Trump is speaking. We'll have to cut to that live.
People. But it was a very aggressive statement, and I hope that they're going to be able to come together, India and Pakistan, and do something that's really smart and good for both. And I'm sure there could be, there's always a solution, and I really believe there's a solution to that. Easy, easy. You've asked one already. Go ahead, quickly. Make 1 second statement. Go ahead, make a statement.
You can solve this outstanding issue of Kashmir. Exactly, and definitely you will be deserving a Nobel Prize on that.
I think I'll get a Nobel Prize for a lot of things.
Mr. President,
I think I'm going to get a Nobel Prize for a lot of things if they gave it out fairly, which they don't. They gave it out, well, they gave one to Obama immediately upon his ascent to the presidency, and he had no idea why he got it. And you know what? That was the only thing I agreed with him on.
Mr. President, other than Pakistan and India,
Come on.
other than Pakistan and India, the Kashmiri people are suffering last 15 days. They will talk later on, but right now there was human rights violation in Kashmir. 50 days lockdown, no internet, no food, nothing. So, you know, what do you want to do for the Kashmiri people?
Where do you find reporters like this? These guys are...
So that is the joint press briefing that is happening after that meeting ended between Donald Trump and Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan. Let me go straight to Sushant Sareen. Sushant Sareen, you heard what Donald Trump had to say on that. Your comments.
Well, I got a few snatches of what he said, but I think he kind of sidestepped many of the minefields that the Pakistani journalists, most of whom are often tutored by the ISI, the kind of questions they put to him. See, there's a lot of fake news that Kashmir is under a lockdown or under curfew for the last 48 days. It is not. Now, clearly, the Americans would have enough information that it is not under curfew. There is some of the places are shut down, but they're shut down because you know, there's fear and uncertainty primarily caused by the terrorists and the militants out there. So for the Pakistanis to say what they are saying, that was to be expected. But I don't think Donald Trump has said anything apart from reiterating a traditional position of the Americans that, look, we are ready to do, you know, talk, bring these two guys together. If the two of them talk to each other, all will be well. I think that's such an inert statement to make, no skin off our nose. And as far as this whole business, you know, which the Pakistanis tried to float of Nobel Prize, I think, you know, we heard the answer from Donald Trump. He was not biting the bait.
But you know, Sushant Sareen, that specific question, you know, Pakistan has tried really hard over the last few days to internationalize the Kashmir issue, abrogation of Article 370. But the fact is that there has been no large-scale violence or a single live bullet as far as the valley is concerned. Do you think that effort has failed, and that's the reason why, despite everything, Pakistan is continuing to do so? They failed to get 14 votes at the UNHRC. They failed to have, make that a topic of discussion even at UNSC.
See, Marya, very clearly the Pakistanis have been stunned. They don't know what the hell hit them on August 5. And they've been groping around, and they think that, they will start getting traction by threatening a nuclear holocaust, by doing this kind of saber rattling which they've been doing. But nobody is buying into it. So here is the problem for the Pakistanis, that they have two cases as far as Kashmir is concerned. One is that they claim that they have an interest in Kashmir, a direct interest. It's a disputed territory. Nobody has endorsed that line. The second thing which they are talking about is that, look, there is mass-scale human rights violations, etc., etc. Now, out there, the problem has been that many of the local stingers in Kashmir have been filing absolutely fake news. They've been taking one small mohalla where there is some kind of disturbances and then telescoping it and blowing it out of proportion to show that the whole valley is burning. Now, clearly, that is something which has got some traction, where some people have made some noises. But where is the real pressure on India to either overturn the decisions which were taken on August 5 or to undo many of the measures that were done? Nothing of the sort.
Yes.
At best, what people are telling us is that why don't you release some of the detained political leaders? Why don't you lift the communication lockdown? And there are good reasons for keeping the communication lockdown in place, especially on internet and other things, because that is used, that has been weaponized by the terrorists based in Pakistan to create disturbances in Jammu and Kashmir. So to that extent, that's a security measure which has been taken. Otherwise, everything is open in Kashmir. The schools are open, offices are open, traffic is plying on the roads. Some shops are open, some are closed. But, situation is moving towards normalcy very fast.
Okay. Diplomat Sajanar, quickly, what will you be looking out for over the next 5 days that the Prime Minister is in United States?
Well, first thing is on the bilateral level, his meeting with President Trump tomorrow. And I think there many of the things that you were talking to Mr. Ram Madhav, whether it is in terms of the trade deal, if it is to be announced, defense deal, oil, energy, we have seen the proposed investment of $2.5 billion by Petronet LNG in Tellurian in Texas. So, on all these things, there should be some clarity going forward. I'm sure there is also, on the 26th, going to be the meeting of the Quad, the four countries,
yes.
US, India, Japan, Australia. And for the first time, it is taking place at the ministerial level.
That's right.
And the last three meetings have been at junior official level. It was always said that India was standing in the way of upgrading it to ministerial. India has agreed now. What are the reasons that India has agreed?
Right.
I think that is something very, something very significant. We need to look at it. On the 27th, Prime Minister Modi is going to be speaking at the UN General Assembly.
Absolutely.
And that is the big address. And then how do we respond to what Imran Khan comes out and he says that, I am going to raise Kashmir as no one before me has done. So, what is he going to say, and how are we going to respond? Because there's going to be a right of reply.
All right. Diplomat
so
Sajanar,
many things.
Thank you so much. Sushant Sareen, thank you so much for joining us. Of course, the big address on 27th, which will be at the United Nations General Assembly. What will be the Prime Minister's statement? Because before that, Imran Khan would have spoken and perhaps raised the issue of Jammu and Kashmir as well. I'll be seeing you tomorrow. Thanks so much for watching.